I'm a girl. I like to eat mac and cheese, collards, and sweets. I'm on a journey to trim and fit, so the magic number on the scale I hit. Tracking my food and working out twice a day were habits that made my fat go away. In 1997, my fat went bye bye. Over the years, it came back on my thighs. Why? Too many cakes, cookies, and pies. Now the number on the scale I hide. I need help, y'all. Come go nuts about health with me on my health and wellness fitness journey. Hi, I'm Dawn Slade, and welcome to Nuts About Health. And I am on my journey to health and wellness. As I told you before, I'm on a mission to become trim, fit, firm, and fabulous by my next birthday next year, 2025. And so I am on this journey to health and wellness. And on my journey, whatever I learn, I want to share it with you. I thank you for joining me on my journey. And I'm going to share everything I learned with you and hopefully give you some tips and some some steps so that you can get some information to help you on your health and wellness journey. So today we're going to talk about poison in our pantry. But before we get to that, let's just go back over what health and wellness is. Now, health is defined as the complete state of physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being. Health and wellness is the practice of healthy lifestyle habits in order for you to have that physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being. And there are habits that you have to practice in order so that you can thrive and not just survive. So what are some of those habits that you have to practice on a daily basis so that you can thrive and not just survive? First, you have to eat a good diet. A good diet, eating healthy, is number one. Number two, we need to move our bodies on a regular basis. Number three, we need to get adequate sleep. Number four, drink enough water. Number five, we want to manage our stress. Number six, we want to be mindful, live in the moment. Seven, we want to have some good, positive social relationships. Those are practical habits that we need to do every day so that we can have health and wellness and we can thrive. And so what are we? We, you, me. We are a spirit, we have a soul, and we live in a body. And all three of them have to line up for that health and wellness. What we're going to focus on today is that physical piece, which is the body. The body needs to eat a healthy diet. What are you eating is the question. And you know, there's a saying that says, you are what you eat. It's a little saying that's been around a long time. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you a little story about my sister, about this whole you are what you eat. I think when she was about the second grade, this is my baby sister, Ann, she was going through the school and by the cafeteria, there was this big poster, you are what you eat. And so she was skipping through the hallway, and then I guess she thought about it. She looked at that poster and she thought about it. She said, if I'm an apple, will I eat? No, she said, if I eat an apple, am I an apple? And she went on a couple of days later because she was pondering that question. She said, if I'm a burger, will I eat a burger? No, if I eat a burger, am I a burger? If I eat a cookie, am I a cookie? So she thought about that thing and she thought about that thing and then she just forgot about it. And then we had a conversation many years ago and we were having this conversation about you are what you eat. And I said to her, I said, well, Ian, why didn't you just ask mommy? She said, because I could read. And, you know, I think she was in about the second grade because, you know, you start to read, you learn to read from like kindergarten to the third grade. So she said, I could read. You read from kindergarten to the third grade, so then you can read to learn. So she said, I could read. That's what it said, and that's what she understood. But it really is a true statement. You are what you eat. And what does that really mean? It means that the source of the food that you ingest is going to affect you. Now, food could either be a cure or a culprit. It could be medicine or it can be poison. That brings us to the topic that we're talking about today, the poison in your pantry. And what we're going to talk about is the foods that we have in our cupboards have chemicals in them, and those chemicals are harming our bodies. So how do I know this? Because I saw an article by the Environmental Working Group. The Environmental Working Group, they're advocacy agency that really tries to provide consumers with information about food toxicity and things of that nature. And they had this article and they were talking about 12 chemicals that are in the everyday foods that we eat. There are 12 of them. I'm going to focus on 4 today. I'm going to do a 3-part series. We're going to focus on 4 of the 12 today. And we're going to talk about these chemicals that are in our food and what can we do about it. So I'm going to start with 4 chemicals, and I'm going to start with the one that is a mouthful. It is called azodicarbonamide. Azodicarbonamide, also known as ADA. What is ADA? It's a mouthful, and it is something that you want to be aware of because it is a preservative that is put in dough. It allows the dough to be strong. It strengthens the dough, it conditions the dough, and it also bleaches the dough. So it's in most of the breads that we eat, when we go to a restaurant, or the breads that are in the fast food joints on the sandwiches. Those rolls has that ADA chemical in it. And the reason why that is such a problem, because ADA is also used in plastics and rubber. So why would the food manufacturers put a chemical that is also used in plastic and rubber in the bread? That doesn't make any sense. That's not right. And so this particular chemical causes problems to the kidneys and the liver. It also is known to damage the blood, the nervous system, and the respiratory system. Excuse me, that's a tongue tie. But it's not right. That's not good. That's not good. That's a bad chemical that we are eating every day. So every time you grab a burger, you're eating that. Every time you get a hot dog and you put a bun on it, you're eating that. Whenever you eat any kind of pastries or any kind of bread, you are eating ADA. And ADA is linked to increasing cancer as well. So ADA is one of the chemicals that is not a good thing that we should be eating. The other thing is, another mouthful, is called butylated hydroxyanisole. Butylated hydroxyanisole. That is BHA. BHA is a preservative, and it's in things like cereal, it's in meats, it's in a lot of things, and it causes a lot of problems as well. It is also linked to cancer. And so when you see these initials, when you read the labels, you want to stay away from them. The BHA, and the BHA has a cousin. The cousin is BHT, butylated hydroxyanisole. Butylated hydroxytoluene. That's another one that is not anything that you want to have in your food. And the initials are BHT. So those are things that we don't want to have in our food. The other thing I want to talk about is the artificial dyes. There's 7 of them that are in a wide variety of food. Those artificial dyes include red number 3, red number 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, blue 2, and green 3. The red dyes are in the candies that the kids love to eat. It's in the M&Ms, it's in the Skittles, it's in all of the Starbursts. It's in those kind of candies, the red dye. And the red dye these dyes are known to cause developmental problems as well as causing hyperactivity in the children. And you wonder, why would the food manufacturers put this in the food for our kids? Because it's all about the Benjamins. So we have to become informed consumers. We have to become informed consumers about what we are putting in our body. So now that we know that these 4 chemicals are not good for us, again, they are ADA, BHA, BHT, and the dyes. So what are we going to do? Awareness precedes choice, and choice precedes change. We are aware of it, so now we want to make some changes. What do we want to do? We want to detox our body. How do we do that? By reducing or totally eliminating these foods that have these chemicals in them. So you say, how am I going to do that? Well, one of the things we have to do is we have to move away from the standard American diet. The standard American diet is the diet that is highly processed. It is full of sugar. It is full of salt. It is full of bad oils like soybean oil. It is full of chemicals. We already know that. It does not have enough fresh fruits or vegetables. So we want to move away from the standard American diet, and we want to embrace more of a plant-based diet. We want to embrace foods that are whole and foods that are plant-based, that are not made in a factory. So that's what we want to do. We want to move away from the standard American diet, embrace the whole foods, plant-based diet, which means we're going to eat less processed foods. If we eat less processed foods, then we're going to minimize the number of chemicals that we are ingesting. If we're going to eat processed foods, we have to read the labels. You have to read the labels to see what is in the food. I know you want to do it. You're like, that's just one more thing I got to do. But if you want to be healthy, if you want your children to be healthy, if you want to feel better, if you want to look better, if you want to get to your ideal weight, you're going to have to read those labels, and you're going to have to minimize purchasing things that have more than 5 ingredients in them. That's the rule of thumb. If it has more than 5 ingredients, leave it in the store. Leave it in the shelf in the supermarket if it has more than 5 ingredients. And if you cannot pronounce them, and you see how difficult it was for me to pronounce ADA and BHT and BHA, if we can't pronounce them, what do you think it's doing to our bodies? What do you think it's doing to our cells if we can't pronounce it? So we don't want to eat these foods that have these things in them, but they're in everyday foods. They're in cereals, they're in yogurt, they're in sodas, they're in cookies, they're in baked goods, they're in pastries, they're in everything. The dyes are everywhere. They're in Gatorade, they're in, Sunny Delight. They're in all the things that we eat that are normal, a part of our regular eating habits. These dyes and these chemicals are in them, and they're causing problems to us. So read the labels. Let's minimize the processed food. We want to make sure that when we do eat food, we want to eat locally. We want to eat in season. So it's fall now. So what are some of the foods we should be eating now? Apples and pumpkins and squash. That's an eating in season. And then you want to eat locally. There are lots of farmer markets, or, making sure that you get your food locally is going to minimize a lot of the chemicals and the additives and the preservatives in the food. So that's another thing that you can do. You also want to eat less meat and dairy products. Why? They have chemicals in them. The chemicals, the additives, the preservatives. So we want to minimize the amount of meat that we're eating. We want to eat more plant-based food. And we want to eat more food at home. Now, I know that's a touchy subject for a lot of people, because a lot of people eat out a lot. And a lot of people are busy, and they're working hard. And when they get off of work, the last thing they want to do is come home and make a meal. But when you eat out, you don't know what you're eating. You don't know what's in the food. And so we want to make sure that we are taking back the control of what we're putting in our bodies. So there's a lot of restaurants out there, and they're just doing the best they can. They're just trying to make a living, and they're sourcing their food from the food industry. So they're not doing anything wrong. It's just that the food industry just puts a lot of chemicals and additives in our food, and so whenever we go to a restaurant, we're getting the same chemicals and additives. So how can we reduce those chemicals and additives? By making more meals at home. And what do? When we go to make more meals at home, when we shop, we want to make sure that we are shopping at the perimeters of the supermarket. We don't want to go in the middle of the supermarket. We want to go into the store, get the fruits and vegetables, get the meat, get the bread, come out the store. Everything in the middle has artificial color, artificial dyes, preservatives, additives, chemicals. So we don't want to do that. We want to try to eat more, make more meals at home. Now, I got a tip for you. When you say, well, I don't have time to cook. I don't want to cook. Well, why don't you try using a crock pot or a slow cooker? That's a really good way to introduce more home-cooked meals into your home. And also, it's going to save you time. For those who don't have time, for those who don't want to make time, a crock pot is a really good way to do it because you can make a one-pot meal. You can put everything in that crock pot. You can turn that baby on, and, you could do it when you go to bed at night and wake up and have your breakfast, or you could do it when you go to work and when you come home, the food is already done. And so it's a great way so that you can control your food and it doesn't take a lot of time. So you can, for example, you can make a chicken. You can put a whole chicken in a crock pot with some carrots, celery, onions, some seasoning, maybe some chicken broth in there. You might want to put some potatoes in there. And when you put all of that in there in the crock pot, turn it on low or high, in hours the next day, or when you come back from work, you have a wonderful meal that you have made, and you don't have to start from scratch. Because if you don't make an effort to make more meals at home, you're just going to be exposed to more chemicals. And we want to minimize that because, we want to feel better. We want to look better. We want to lose the weight. Look, I know I want to lose the weight. I'm like I said, I'm on a journey. Next year this time, I am going to be trim, fit, firm, and fabulous. So I am trying to share whatever tips I have. I want to share them with you. And so that you can, whatever your goals are, your health and wellness goals are, you can reach your health and wellness goals. But we want to make sure that we feel our best, and we feel our best if we eat the best foods that we can eat, because we are what we eat. That's really true. So if the animals that we are eating have chemicals and hormones and additives and preservatives in it, we're going to have that as well. And one of the things I've learned on this journey is that when we have extra weight on our body, it's not just because we don't have the willpower and we're just gluttons and we're greedy and we just eat more than we burn up in terms of energy. Now, I am a person who did like to eat. I will admit that. But what I've learned is that with the extra weight on your body, it is being held on for 3 reasons. 1, we eat too much sugar, and so when our body can't use the sugar, it stores it as fat. 2, there's too many hormones in our food. The animals are being given hormones, and so we eat the hormones, and that causes us to hold on to weight. And 3, the chemicals in the body. The chemicals that I just talked about, when our body doesn't understand what these chemicals are, it says, I don't know what this is. I'm going to hold on to it as fat. I'm going to hold on to it as fat cells. And so we may try very hard. We might restrict our calories. We might work out really hard, and we still cannot get to the weight that we want to be because our body is holding on to toxins, extra hormones, and extra sugars. So what do? What we do is we try to detox the body by reducing the chemicals, by reducing the hormones, and by reducing the extra sugar in our bodies. And how do we do that? Is you are what you eat. So we have to change what we eat. And if we change what we eat, that's the first step. That's the first step, by changing what you eat. So you want to eat clean. You want to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. You want to eat less processed food. You want to eat less meat and dairy products. And you want to cook more foods at home. That's what we have to do if we want to avoid the poison in the pantry. So what we want to do is we do not want to have that poison in our pantry. We're going to leave that poison in the supermarket. We're not going to bring that poison home. Don't bring that poison home. Leave it in the supermarket. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you do eat, that you're eating foods that are whole, that you're eating foods that are vibrant, that you're eating foods that are going to nourish your body, because health is your number one wealth, and you are worth the investment. So we're first talking about these chemicals that are in the food. We focused on 4 today: ADA, BHA, BHT, and the artificial dyes and the colorings in the food. And when you really think about the artificial dyes, it really makes me sad that there's a food industry and food manufacturers would put things in the food that are really marketed to children that can cause harm to their bodies and cause them to have difficulty learning in school. That's not right. So we have to, as consumers, we have to be informed consumers and understand that if we stop buying these foods, then they'll stop making them. And how dare they put all this garbage in the food and hurt our children? When they market the cereals to the kids, it has all kinds of dyes and sugars and BHA and BHT. And then we wonder why the kids are having difficulty, why childhood obesity is such a problem, why the kids are having difficulty learning in school, because of the products that people just eat every day have all these chemicals in them. And it's not right. It's not fair, because as a parent and as someone who loves children, we try to do the best that we can, thinking that we're going to give them healthy food. And when we come to find out, the food is not healthy. When we read the labels, we will see that food is not healthy. And so if the food is not healthy for our children, we're not giving them the best chance. So as the adults, we have to first lead by example. And what we want to do is we want to eat better. And it's not easy. I know it's not easy, but it's not impossible. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take one step at a time. So awareness precedes choice, and choice precedes change. So now that we know that there is poison in our pantry, now that we know what some of this poison is and we can be on the lookout for it when we read the labels, now we can do something about it by taking that first step. And that first step is to say, I am not going to continue to put chemicals in my body. I'm going to read those food labels, and I'm going to make a better choice, because I am going to leave the poison in the supermarket. I'm not going to bring it home and put it in my pantry so that it can be lurking and waiting to pounce on my health or the people that I love. That's what we can do. So leave that poison in the supermarket. Don't bring it home. And remember, you are what you eat, and health is your number one wealth, and you are worth the investment. So I'm Dawn Slade. I am on a mission to become trim, fit, firm, and fabulous by next year. And I am on this journey. As I learn this information, I'm going to share it with you. So the next time, it's going to be part 2 of the 12 food chemicals that are in the foods that we like to eat all the time. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.